In 2010, in Omaha, Nebraska, a small landlord was lured to an apartment by a former tenant who wanted revenge after being evicted. She was never seen alive again. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News.
I wished he would have got the death penalty.
Cecilia Minchell has no mercy for the man who helped murder her friend.
There's not, because there's always this big empty hole where your loved one used to be.
Minchell knew Karen Jenkins for more than 30 years. She died in 2010, killed by Gary Lee and his sister. Tuesday, a judge gave Lee 65 to 100 years in prison.
Both families are just destroyed over something stupid.
I'm his mom, and he made the wrong choice in life.
Her son and her daughter, both convicted killers. A judge will sentence Monique Lee next month for first-degree murder.
I can relate to how the Jenkins feels. You know, I can sympathize with them because they lost a sister, you know.
Today, I have the story for you of a landlord who unfortunately lost her life due to a tenant who was very upset due to an eviction being filed against her and ended up taking the landlord's life. Now, this is the sort of situation that a lot of landlords they fear. They fear tenants reacting so negatively to, an eviction or to other negative circumstances that happen between the landlord and the tenant that violence could occur. And that's exactly what happened in this situation. So this happened back in 2010 here in my hometown of Omaha, Nebraska. So all of the case has been concluded, but I thought it was such an interesting case that I would bring it up as a cautionary tale to those who, think that landlords, they don't face any dangers in their jobs. Okay. So this is worst case scenario for a landlord. And I feel very, very bad for the landlord's family and friends who lost her. And my opinion is for those who committed this crime that they receive the harshest penalties, because this was absolutely awful. So let's get into it. Landlord Karen Jenkins was reported missing to the Omaha Police Department on October 18th, 2010. Officers found her body under the front porch of a home on 40th Street in Omaha 5 days later. Medical examiners listed Jenkins' cause of death as strangulation, asphyxiation, and a throat bone fracture. The 48-year-old Jenkins had served eviction papers on her tenant, Monique Lee, just 2 days earlier. And, this is, like I said, this is a very bad situation. This is where landlords, when we're doing a lot of the work ourselves and, we have a personal relationship with the tenant, and sometimes we can get hot, we can get angry because we're not getting paid our rent. And the people, they're like, hey, we think we deserve something for free. We think we deserve special treatment, and it's, everything is your fault. That's what they think, right? And no, this isn't our fault any more than it would be the fault of a car company for repossessing a car that you promised to pay for and you didn't complete your end of the contract. Okay. So yeah, we're going to want to take our property back if you're not paying rent. We're not going to support you. We're not your parents. We're not your social service provider. I've said that many times. Okay. And it's not personal. It is just business to us. And yeah, it is important that you have somewhere to live, but that is your responsibility, not the responsibility of the landlord. Prosecutors said Jenkins was lured to the apartment by then 19-year-old Gary Lee, who is Monique Lee's younger brother. He pretended that he wanted to rent the apartment. Prosecutors said that after Jenkins arrived at the apartment, Gary Lee held Jenkins' legs down as his sister, Monique Lee, strangled Jenkins with a vacuum cleaner cord. Prosecutors had wanted a life sentence for Gary Lee, but on Tuesday, November 13, 2012, Gary Lee was sentenced to 65 to 100 years in prison for his role in the 2010 death. he could be eligible for parole after 32 and a half years. So yeah, this was a relatively young guy. He's helping out his sister, so he holds down this landlord while his sister strangled her. Okay, now that's absolutely awful, and you know you have to think to yourself: is there anything that is worth taking somebody's life for? In terms of, oh, you're getting evicted. So what? Okay, maybe you have to go and stay at a relative's house for a short period of time, but that is no reason to take someone's life. We're talking about dollars here. Okay, we're not talking about a person who physically injured you or did something to you. I think what it really comes down to is, and you got to wonder if these people, they really plan this sort of thing through, or if you got so much into their feelings that they had, they had to get revenge. They had to get revenge on this landlord for insulting them or for making them feel bad. Okay, this is the sort of behavior that mentally ill people or psychotic people, they operate under. And it doesn't surprise me one bit that these people, they claimed insanity, because this is insane. This is absolutely crazy. Cecilia Minshaw, who knew Jenkins for more than 30 years, says she has no mercy for Gary Lee. I wish he would have gotten the death penalty, Minshaw said. As for Monique Lee, a jury rejected her defense of not guilty by reason of insanity and convicted her of first-degree murder. She was sentenced to life in prison. So yeah, I'm glad that the sentencing, it actually lined up with what these people deserve. Now, my personal opinion, I agree with the friend of the victim that these guys, they deserve the death penalty. Okay, their crime was so heinous. These people are a threat to society, and justice says, hey, let's give them what they dished out, which is death. Okay, I'm a supporter of the death penalty here, and giving them life in prison, or giving the former tenant life in prison. To me, that is a waste of our time and our money as we pay for the rest of her life for to keep her in that prison, right? But fortunately, things ended up working out a tad bit better than what you would expect, and let me go over that part right now. Her sentence ended up being shorter than expected, because just 2 months after beginning her sentence, the 29-year-old convicted killer died Friday, January 18th, 2013, inside the Nebraska Women's Prison in York. Yeah, so she passed away. Now, I wasn't able to find an article that said what she had died of. Doesn't matter. She's gone. She might have taken her own life. You know, they didn't go into the details in the articles that I found, and this happened 10 years ago. So there might not be a lot of information that I'm able to find. But yeah, she's gone, and her brother still in prison here in Nebraska, and will not be out for another 20 years, if ever. Hopefully, but this is a very negative situation. I'm glad that justice was served in a way, and that her killer, at least one of her killers, is not ever going to see the light of day again. I feel very bad for her family and her friends, and her life was lost at such a young age. She was 48 years old when she passed away, which obviously I'm in my mid 40s right now, and one of my tenants taking my life, I wouldn't like that. I wouldn't like that. It makes a lot of people very wary of being landlords when things like this happen, and I don't blame them. I don't blame them one bit. This is a tough thing to do. That's why a lot of people, they will never get into it. So it's an interesting story. I'll put links to all of the articles and the videos that I used for it into the description so that you can read the whole thing.